There are moments in life that split you in two, before it happened and after. For Maya Turner, that moment began on an ordinary morning in downtown Chicago, when everything she thought was solid quietly began to crack. Maya was 29, thoughtful, ambitious, with a quiet fire in her eyes. She lived in a small apartment overlooking the skyline, worked as a marketing designer at a trendy startup, and loved a man named Ethan Cole, a confident, fast-talking project manager with big dreams and a smile that could light up a room. They'd been together for 3 years. To anyone watching, they looked like the perfect couple. They had matching coffee mugs, inside jokes, and a Pinterest board full of wedding ideas. Maya believed that if she just worked hard enough, if she just gave enough love, everything else would fall into place. But life has a way of testing the foundations we build on. It started subtly. Ethan became distant, long hours at work, unread texts, canceled dinners. Whenever she asked what was wrong, he brushed it off. "You're overthinking again, babe. Relax." She wanted to believe him. Until one Friday evening, she stopped by his office to surprise him with dinner and saw something that broke her. Through the glass wall, she saw Ethan laughing, not the tired, distracted laugh he'd given her lately, but the kind he used to share only with her. Sitting across from him was another woman, leaning in close. His hand brushed hers across the table. Maya froze. For a second, the world went silent. Then it all crashed. The trust, the dreams, the version of love she had in her head. She left without saying a word. That night, she cried until there were no tears left, just that hollow ache that comes when your heart realizes it's been living in a lie. The next morning, Ethan came home to an apartment that felt colder. When she confronted him, he didn't even try to deny it. "It just happened," he said, staring at the floor. "I didn't mean to hurt you." Those words, "I didn't mean to," stayed with her. They always do. Maya packed her things slowly, carefully folding each piece of her life into boxes. She moved out 2 days later. And just like that, the girl who used to laugh so easily vanished. At work, she tried to stay professional. But pain has a way of leaking through the cracks. Her focus slipped, mistakes piled up, and one Monday morning, her boss called her into a conference room. 3 people sat waiting, HR representatives with tight smiles. "Maya, due to restructuring, your position is being eliminated. We're sorry. You've been wonderful to work with." Her ears rang. Her body felt weightless. In 1 month, she'd lost the 2 things she'd built her life around, love and career. When she got home that day, she didn't turn on the lights. She sat on the floor of her small apartment, surrounded by unopened boxes, and stared at the dark window. "How did everything fall apart so fast?" she whispered. Bills started piling up. Job applications went unanswered. Days blurred into nights. She stopped answering calls from friends because she didn't know how to explain that she wasn't fine anymore. Then came the final blow, an eviction notice on her door. Her hands shook as she read it. That night, she curled up under a blanket and cried until morning. And when the tears finally stopped, something inside her shifted. She realized no one was coming to save her. If she wanted her life back, she would have to rebuild it herself, piece by piece. A week later, while searching through boxes for something to sell, Maya found an old sketchbook. It was dusty, edges frayed, filled with drawings she'd done years ago, before life got too serious. She sat down on the floor, flipped through the pages, and for the first time in months, she smiled. She grabbed a pencil and began to draw again. At first it was shaky, rusty, but soon the lines began to flow. Hours passed without her noticing. Her pain started turning into art. She poured everything she couldn't say into those pages. Heartbreak, fear, hope. It all came out through color and texture and emotion. It became therapy, a kind of healing she hadn't known she needed. One morning, her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Lopez, stopped by with a small bag of groceries. "You've been too quiet, dear," the woman said kindly. "You okay?" Maya hesitated, then showed her the sketches scattered across her coffee table. Mrs. Lopez gasped. "These are beautiful. You should show people these." Maya laughed softly. "They're just drawings. Nobody would care. Don't be silly. There's a weekend art fair at the park. I have a booth. You should bring a few pieces." What's the worst that could happen? That question stayed in Maya's head all night. So, on Saturday morning, she took a deep breath, gathered 10 of her drawings, and went to the fair. She expected nothing. Maybe a few kind words from strangers. But something unexpected happened. People stopped, looked, asked questions. Some bought her art. One woman even asked if Maya could create a portrait of her late husband. Maya's heart swelled. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen, not for who she had been with someone, but for who she was. Word spread. A local cafe offered to display her artwork. Then an online magazine wrote a short feature about her story. the artist who turned heartbreak into hope. Suddenly, her inbox wasn't full of rejection letters anymore. It was full of commissions, invitations, and support. Her small living room transformed into a studio. She started selling her art online, and within months, she had enough to rent a new apartment, her own space, filled with color and light. Maya didn't just rebuild her life, she reinvented it. One afternoon, about a year later, she was at a local gallery preparing for her very first solo exhibition. Her paintings lined the walls, every piece a reflection of the storms she'd survived. As she adjusted one of the frames, she heard a familiar voice behind her. Maya, she froze, turned around slowly. It was Ethan. He looked different, older, maybe even regretful. I saw your story in the magazine, he said softly. I had to come see it for myself. You are incredible. Maya smiled politely. Thank you. He glanced around the room, at the people admiring her work. You've really changed. She nodded. I had to. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ethan sighed. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. Maya looked at him, really looked, and felt something surprising. Not anger, not sadness, just peace. You know, she said gently, I used to think losing you was the worst thing that ever happened to me. But now I see it was the beginning of everything good. Ethan lowered his eyes. I'm happy for you. She smiled again, a calm, steady smile. Thank you. I'm happy for me too. And with that, she turned back to her work as the gallery lights glowed warm around her. Later that night, when the event ended, Maya stood alone in the quiet gallery, staring at her favorite painting, a woman standing tall in the middle of a storm, holding a lantern. That was her. She realized she'd become the light she once searched for. Her journey wasn't perfect. It was messy, painful, raw, but it was hers. And as she locked up and stepped out into the cool night air, she whispered to herself, sometimes, losing everything is how you finally find yourself. So if you're listening to this right now, standing somewhere between heartbreak and healing, remember Maya's story. Maybe life isn't falling apart. Maybe it's clearing the way for you to build something better. Because sometimes, the ending you feared most is just the beginning you needed.